Alright, what's up everybody? Fox here. This is Dice Troop After Dark Episode 2. I am joined by rising cosplayer Misanda. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, tired from a long work week.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So, I guess I should start off by apologizing. Like, 90% of our week shows have been canceled, but that's because, a holiday was put on Thursday, which kind of really messed with all our stuff. There will be no Hammer tomorrow, but we should be back in rotation on Monday with Table Talks. So, do you want to dive right into this? So tell us about yourself and what you do.
Well, I started to get into cosplay and costuming when I was about 16. I remember vividly falling in love with the idea when I was watching Sugar on YTV at a convention interviewing Sailor Moon cosplayers, and I sat there going, "Oh my God, those people must have taken them years and hours and so much effort, and there's no way I could ever do that." And then I met a girl who was from Japan and became close friends. And she literally was like, "Hey, they sell fabric at stores, right?" And my world exploded. So ever
So
since,
when you learned that they sold fabric at stores, that's when it did it.
pretty much, I was like, "There's nothing that can stop me now." So I started making. I think my first costume was like Sasuke, and then I made Full Metal Alchemist. And there's not really any pictures or good pictures that you can really find. They were not the best, but in my mind, that's where I started. So I have the jacket signed by Vic Naga, whatever, in my closet. And it is one of my prized possessions because it reminds me where I came from.
Yeah, so cool. So we got a few pictures here. Let's talk about some of your favorites. So let's talk about my favorites actually. Your WoW cosplay. Up here we got you as Alexstrasza and a Blood Elf Rogue Mage. Blood Elf
Yes.
in general.
It's a priest. So, but in
Priest.
that picture, you don't actually have my staff. That one, I actually took some blades that a friend of mine made. He replicated some basic daggers from the lower levels in the Blood Elf Zone. So, which was actually pretty cool. It was a mix of fiberglass and insulation foam, I believe.
Yeah, so maybe these were the worst ones to pick for first, but I just gotta say like that's pretty impressive, considering like all the detail in your clothes and stuff like that, and you had to make sure all that armor fit and stuff like that. I mean, where do you even start? I mean, do you start with sketches? Do you plan it out, or do you just kind of mold stuff together and you're like, well, this fits on me, or this doesn't? Time to start over.
Okay, well, the biggest thing is cosplay is expensive. Don't ever go into it half-assing it, or
I,
just
I should say by joking, this is the group that drops $500 on plastic figurines. So yeah, money sink is not a thing. But go ahead.
well, you guys should be right at home with cosplay then. Pretty much, you start off with the cheapest material you can to fuck up on. My choice is paper or cardstock, and I basically make patterns out of it. For the Blood Elf, I actually sewing and stuff for most of my costumes has gotten easier because I kind of know my size and my measurements, and so I tend to just sketch things out on paper first, and I see how it goes together. And if it works, then I put it on my actual fabric. The Alexstrasza one's actually a bit more interesting to talk about. That's actually resin and craft foam. So I started by making patterns on paper, and when I found a pattern that I liked, I fit it around to see how it worked, and then I traced it out onto craft foam. Then before I resined it, I checked it, made sure it fit, it was all nice, and then I painted it with resin, which was the most frustrating and time-consuming ever. I'm never doing it again. I'm going to stick with Wonderflex and Warblow, which is an amazing, amazing cosplay tool. It comes in sheets, kind of like fabric. You heat it up and it turns into hard plastic. And most of the amazing cosplayers you see, like Kamui cosplay, they use it in everything. And it's just, you can do anything with it. She makes boots, like armored boots out of it. It's just amazing.
All right. So is this a company or is this a certain material? So do you want to go in depth about that a bit?
Um, Depending on where you're from, there's different sites to sell. I think cosplaysupplies.com sells to North America and Canada. I know Yaya Han has recently gotten her hands on selling Warbler to North America because originally it was only from Europe. These are the names of the products. So you got Wonderflex, Warbler, and there's another one I can't remember. Foss Shape. That's it. The differences that I've noticed in their use is Wonderflex needs a lot more aftercare. You have to coat it with something like gesso. Anyone who doesn't know what gesso is, it is used for covering canvases of paint before you paint it to smooth it and get rid of bumps. That is a very common thing in cosplay that people use. Wonderflex is kind of is a really nice one to start with. Faux shape is a little bit not as durable, and you can't really reshape it once you've used it. So it's definitely the cheapest. If you are just doing small things, I'd suggest it. Whereas Warbler seems to be the big heavy duty cosplay armor material of choice for cosplayers.
Right. So you talked about a money sink. How much do you sink into these costumes, would you say?
Alex Straza was definitely over $500. I actually did her stuff pretty cheap. Like the horns, I actually made all from scratch. I basically used expanding foam techniques, which took a long time to do, but it was definitely cheaper than resin casting. The resin ran me about $100.
Wow.
And I had to get a lot of... For my shoulders, I didn't actually fully complete them the way I wanted, but I had to get a lot of craft foam. I had to actually get pool noodles. Finding pool noodles on off-season was really hard. I had to order it off of Amazon for $5 a pool noodle.
Wow, so they're made of pool noodles.
The little ridges you see are actually pool noodles. They're cut out with an X-Acto knife and then shaped with scissors. That took at least 1 week of work to cut out the pieces I needed for it. And that's not including gluing them on.
Wow. All right, so you want to move on to the next one, next costume talk about. All right, so let's go to my second favorite, which is Nightwing. So I want to talk a bit about Nightwing.
This one's my absolute favorite. I actually had help from somebody. She was at an event because I do Nerdlesque. Nerdlesque is essentially burlesque, but with nerdy stuff. So think Star Wars and we had, there was Disney nights and Star Trek and all sorts of great, fantastic things. And she got locked out of a car, and she was a seamstress, so she helped me with that. I'm not the best at bodysuits. They frustrate me. But that is mostly about tons of pieces of fabric, because the gray parts are all separate pieces of fabric from the black parts.
Oh, wow.
The emblem is separate fabric pieces. The gloves are all just tiny little pieces. Like, if you actually see the costume, you can see the seams. It was at least more than 20 pieces compared to the usual bodysuit, which is the arms and then the 2 pieces for the front and back.
All right. So I actually have a question about this picture. The guy in the Batman suit, was that actually a cosplay, or because it almost, I dare say that's almost something that you get from like a Hollywood replica.
He is actually a guy that's local. Mm-hmm. He's good friends with a bunch of my friends. I can't remember his name for the life of me right now. I'm sorry. I don't actually meet him that much. But he came to the convention. He made that all himself. It's not even a replica. He just made it. And he ended up popping up near the end of, this is at Fan Expo Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And he saw me and he was like, hey, my protege. And we ended up just talking and people got so excited. And so we ended up doing a lot of photos.
All right. Someone in a chat room is asking how many hours go into a costume.
Depends on the costume. Each of my costumes, I would say upwards from 80 hours or more.
Oh, wow. So
because I make all my props.
So basically it's a second full-time job. I mean, how much time do you give yourself to plan? Like, there's a con in... I mean, obviously you're not like, oh, there's a con in 2 weeks, better start. You know what I mean?
I've done that way more than I care to admit. I've sat in hotel rooms sewing the costumes because they haven't been fully finished. Doesn't matter how much I plan, I end up there's always something that snags, because if you've never done the costume before, you'd be surprised how many ways you can get stuck. Like, for making my props and the mask, we screwed up for Nightwing at least several different masks, so that took like 20 hours on its own to make. We ended up using wrong spray paint with the wrong sealer, so it actually caused spray paint to bubble and peel off, and I had to redo that prop. My escrimas ended up sticking to my mask, and I had to redo both. It was just, it's a lot of work. It depends on the costume. When I first started cosplaying, it was definitely around 20 hours of work. The more I get into it, the more detail I put in, the more, obsessed I get to every little detail or redoing the parts I don't like.
Hmm.
Uh, the reason it takes so long for me is I make all my props. I like prop making is my favorite part.
Right, and I can actually relate to that as a film major. I loved prop master. That was my absolute favorite thing to do. So, actually, since we got someone in chat room who's curious about your work, let's say I wanted to start cosplaying. Let's say I want to do a cosplay, and I say, I want to be, something ridiculous. I want to be like tier 12 paladin armor or something like that. Would that be something you suggest, or do you think people should have reasonable goals, or do you say just go for it, follow your dream, ride a shooting star, or do you say, maybe tone it down a bit, pick something a bit easier?
Depends on the person. I've seen people jump in way over their head and flounder and drown and end up sitting on their floor crying over pieces of material. But I've also seen some of the greatest cosplayers out there, the ones that have really made it, like Yaya Han, Kamui Cosplay. If you don't know her, check her out on Facebook. She's actually paid by Blizzard to go to the trading card events in costume.
Oh wow.
So she basically had a few costumes before that, but she had never done any armor before, and she jumped right in, and it was amazing. It was so beautiful. So there's always a point where you can't go gradually anymore. Once you're done with fabric stuff, it is not a tiny leap to armor and props. It is a huge jump. So I say whatever you want to do, give yourself time and try. That's the only way to learn, is by trying, screwing up, and getting it well. And there are resources out there to help you. Kamui will talk to you, and she's really nice. So is Yaya Han. There's Sushi Monster does some amazing fabric work, and there's tons all over the internet on Facebook, and they are a great resource. They all put up tutorials and just research. I spent at least 10 hours researching my Alexstrasza and staring at different screen caps I got.
Yeah, maybe at the end of the show you can post some links to anyone who is interested in doing research and stuff like that, because, one of the reasons I'm so into cosplay, I think, and why I admire people like you so much is because, as a film major, I love doing makeup, I love doing, gore effects and special effects and stuff like that. My friend, actually, the one who does Planeswalker's Mosh Pit, I did his makeup for the Orlando Zombie Walk a couple years
Wow.
back, and he was like on the cover of some magazine, I think.
That's awesome.
And they're like, "Whoa, who did your makeup?" It's like, "Oh, my friend." So that was probably a little disappointing. So yeah, I mean, it's like, so just go for it. Just have a reasonable goal. Just do what you feel like.
Don't limit yourself. And seriously, if your first one is not amazing, who cares? You have nowhere to go but up. I mean, I guess I know this is geeky, but Jake from Adventure Time did say the first part of being good at something is sucking at it.
Yep, greatest quote of that entire series. But yeah, I mean, it's also probably important that the community is also very supportive as well. I mean, do you want to talk about like the whole community aspect of it? Because it's like this whole other kind of like cult group that kind of just they go to these things. They go to conventions. They'll go to gaming conventions. They don't really care about the game. They just want to go and cosplay. They want to talk to other cosplayers. I mean, do you want to talk about the community in general?
Sure. Like any community, you got amazing people, but you will have the few that are really mean or can be really harsh or cruel and jerks. That just comes with anything. Takes all types of people to make the world. So for the most part, you go say hi to someone, as long as you're just like, hey, I love your costume, and you just talk to them like a person, they're all for it. All of us love to give hints and helpful, whenever we can. Just the only thing I'd say be aware of is the really well-known cosplayers. Look at the tutorials and FAQs first to see if your question was already answered. Nothing's more frustrating than getting 50 of the same questions a day when you had already explained it. And always respect their boundaries. If they don't want to talk, don't get angry or upset. I know that some days for myself at conventions, I get so exhausted from so many photos or conversations that I'm just on my way to crash. And I don't mean anything by it when I tell people no or that I have to go. It is literally just because I'm a human being and I can't go 24 hours a day.
Now, this might be an insanely noobish question, so bear with me. But is there actually a convention just for cosplaying and like nothing else?
Sorry, you cut out there. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there actually a cosplay convention?
Yes, there are a few.
Because I know cosplay is usually an accessory to conventions, but is there actually a cosplay convention where you do nothing but cosplay?
There are a ton of little mini get-togethers. They're considered mini conventions or what have you, where they do that. I know Dragon Con, while it is not about the costumes, does parades to showcase and huge groups and amazing photo shoots. And I one day want to go. I'm so excited. It's just gorgeous. It's anime and sci-fi and comics and manga and TV and movies, and it's just such a cool experience. And you get together with all these strangers cosplaying the same thing as you and walk in a parade and take photos and be silly. And in Vancouver, there's Cost and Effects, so which is Cost and Effect is called that because it's costumes and effects. It's about literally celebrating costuming and just all variety of stuff. So they're out there. They're just not as common.
Yep. And also to backtrack, I actually have a kind of a cool cosplay story. It's not my story. One of the people I work with, Seb, he's like the hero. He's really the hero of Dice Troop. But he went to a convention recently and he wanted to go as Robert Baratheon. The problem is when he goes to convention is he has chronic fatigue syndrome, so he has to go in a wheelchair, just in case, he's feeling tired. So what does he do? He doesn't let that stop him. He converts his wheelchair into the goddamn Iron Throne.
There are some really cool cosplayers who do have certain disabilities, whatever it may be, that actually do just go for it. And I admire that so much.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's not just going as that character, you're having complete fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the coolest guy ever, and he is Robert Baratheon. If you ever see him, go watch an episode of The Hammer, go see what he looks like, and you're like, wow, he is Robert Baratheon. He didn't even have to try. In fact, one of the jokes is, for The Hammer when I was on it, is whenever we would come up with a crazy conspiracy theory, we'd do tinfoil hats, and he has the thorn crown around his head made out of tinfoil. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, let's continue. Let's go to your Batgirl. Let's go to Batgirl.
Just mentioned Oracle, actually. That's beautiful.
So you want to talk about Batgirl and the Joker proposing to you? Why aren't you kicking him in the face?
Actually, that's the next shot in the series.
Oh, I don't think we have that one, do we?
No, he hasn't released it yet. This is actually from the convention last weekend. I didn't really have much to wear, so me and my friend had a Batgirl costume, me and my roommate, and I was like, well, I'm going to throw this on and go. And they ended up being stopped by a Joker, and it's like there's going to be a DC shoot. So this is the Joker I met there, is this lovely man here. He's phenomenal. He's well known from a convention in Alberta. He's hilarious, and he just wanted to do some silly, crazy photos, and this is the one that we got put as a preview for the whole convention of this certain photographer.
That's pretty awesome. Now I got a question. Was that a wig or was that his hair?
That was his hair.
Oh, man.
I couldn't believe it. Like,
oh, jeez. Okay, so yeah, we got more Batgirl. I mean, do you want to talk about Batgirl? Compare it to Nightwing.
It is more comfortable, easier to put on, but the headpiece is killer. I'm fitting my head under it with a wig and with a new piercing. It was not the best idea, but for cosplay, you gotta do what you gotta do. Nightwing had about 1 billion belts. Peeing was an impossibility. I had to take off way too much. This one wasn't as bad, but I still needed people to go to the bathroom with me to help me.
Ah. Alright. And also, interesting heels, by the way. I didn't realize Batgirl wore heels.
She does.
Does she?
In the original Batgirl, where she's got the cute little skirt, she wore heeled boots. And then in New 52, she also wears slight heels. I don't know how or why, but bonus points if you can tell who the other girl is. She's Cassandra Cain, Black Bat. She's also one of the proteges of Barbara Gordon when she's Oracle. And she's one of my favorite characters, and it made me so unbelievably sad that DC took her out.
Oh no. Alright, so let's move on to speaking of Adventure Time. We got Fiona.
That was supposed to be a 2-hour costume that took me days.
How so? I'm curious.
Well, see, the skirt we had, my roommate and I had gotten it from H&M forever ago, and it was just sitting there. And so I was thinking, and I was like, oh, well, I have socks, I have shoes, I have the skirt. I can totally make a top and a hat. This is easy. I have my Jaina wig. This is going to be fantastic. Dog ate the first hat. had to remake it. I literally sat and cried at work because I was so exhausted, and the convention was that weekend, and it was like a Thursday, and I just wanted to die. That shirt wasn't too bad, but I kept the collar just kept not sitting right, and I kept having to switch it. And then the sword started peeling because we used the wrong spray paint with the wrong sealer, and I had to strip it all off and redo it the night before the convention. And then at the time, when I was trying to paint everything and do it, we were living in a not-so-great landlord situation where the guy was trying to extort money from us, and he would occasionally come down and scream. So he came down and started throwing things and trying to break into our house and threatening us. So we had to call the cops and put a stop a bit on that costume. I did get it done. I was super happy, but it was a nightmare.
Yeah, so was anyone your Cake the Cat?
No, I did have my roommate. He goes under the name Jargo. I call him Drogo, or Digijon. And he was Jake, and he was also the Ice King.
Nice. So actually, I have a question because, Adventure Time is very popular. Do you ever feel yourself competing against people? Like, did you see a bunch of other Fionas and you kind of just sit there and judge someone like Mean Girls style?
Not really, because every cosplay brings something different to the table, and I like more of a friendly environment than competitive. I honestly, my favorite part is seeing people cosplaying the same stuff or from the same series. You get together and you get to have ridiculous shoots and you get to talk about the things you love, and it's just so much fun. And honestly, there's so many versions of Finn and Fiona that it was just more of a fun photo opportunity than anything else.
Yeah, because I think I noticed you got Prince Bubblegum, or...
Yeah. We had more in the shoot, but I haven't been able to get the photos yet, where we had the Prince Bubblegums fainting into the two different Fiona's arms.
That's pretty awesome. Alright, so next costume is it Doctor Who, I think?
Yes. So I did a Femme 10. This was a costume I did to go with my friend who was dressed as a TARDIS. It was for this really cool sci-fi event show at a club called The Cellar. Sorry, not The Cellar, sorry, Celebrities in Vancouver. And they had this cute, really wicked, alien fashion show on a runway, and we just ended up dressing up as all the different Doctor Who characters.
Right. So, I mean, do you want to talk about any stories with this? Or was this pretty straightforward?
This was the easiest costume ever. Thrift stores. Your best friend. I had the wig previously from a Haruhi cosplay I did forever ago, because a friend of mine, well, not anymore, but he was Kion, and he borrowed my wig, and I ended up keeping it instead of giving it to him, and I wanted to give it good use. So that wig has actually since been turned into Dean Winchester from Supernatural, but this costume was the most fun to photo shoot. I got to do ridiculous things. I got to wander around the city. I ended up going to a library, wandering around a church, messing around with a waterfall. It was cool. It was really rad.
All right, so let's go on to your last one. So it's Black Butler and X23.
X23, yeah.
X23, yeah. I apologize for my narrow mind.
That's okay.
All right, so do you want to talk about these? I mean, you're gonna stab some dude in the head.
Well, X23 is, for anyone who doesn't know, is Wolverine's clone. She basically, in the comic, when she finds out who Wolverine is, she basically does just that in the scene. Jumps down from a mountain and attacks him to kill him.
And then she realizes he can't die, right?
He says, go ahead, I'll let you kill me. It's the least I could do after everything that's happened to you, because she went through the same torture he did.
Right.
And she ends up seeing him as a father figure at the end of it all, but that's my...
Sketchy father figure.
Apparently my roommates felt like, kind of.
I love X23 way too much.
Well, it depends, because I can't really go with the comic. X-Force is weird. Wolverine's in hell, and there's a demon in his body, and she has a thing with Gambit, and it's awkward.
That's her comic series, which was cancelled, and then what did they decide to do? Another origin story. Because, the first origin story...
She's a complicated character, is the point, but she originally appeared in X-Men Evolutions, the cartoon.
Yep.
And she was brown. she was canon. She wasn't white. She was brown.
Yeah, she was originally not supposed to be anything more than just that show. People loved her so much that she got her own comic. She became canon, and so that is why my roommate is X-Men Evolution's Wolverine instead, kind of as a little gift to her origins.
All right.
That is her. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you wanna talk about the costume? The claws, were they difficult to do, or?
No, actually, not too bad. I'm lucky that my Wolverine in that picture, he does a lot of woodworking, and his dad has an amazing shop. We tend to go there for all of our prop stuff, and he's the brains behind it, because he kind of just figured out how to do it at first. I was just kind of there for painting and little stuff, but he constructed it beautifully, mind you, and he's done so much of my woodcutting stuff that I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have him, honestly. I have a pretty fantastic team with my roommates, and it's been nothing but fantastic. He is nodding at me all, yeah, that's right. And essentially, I don't have them right now. They're in storage. I don't know how good shape they are in after all my moving, but they are just pieces of wood that are cut and then shaped to go in between my fingers with a little wooden dowel to hold on to. So I basically hold on to it like this, and it looks like the metal claws are coming out of my hands.
Right, I understand that. All right, so easier cosplay to do?
No, because I tried to make a latex top.
Yikes.
And latex is a nightmare. You have to heat it with special glue and other stuff, and I would never ever do it again. I have since redone the top, so I'm happier with the top now. But I now want to do her X-Force costume. She's got this wicked cool mask. It looks like it's made out of pleather, grayish white, and black pleather. So that's one of my little side projects.
All right. So do you want to talk about Black Butler?
That one was a makeup nightmare. The costume itself was easy. Tailed coats, vest, white shirt, gloves, nice shoes. The wig wasn't too bad either. He has very simple hair compared to, say, Yami from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or anyone from Yu-Gi-Oh!
Anyone from Yu-Gi-Oh!
Literally. But the makeup was a nightmare. I had to have really large circle lenses for that one, for the red to look realistic. So those had to go in first. Then I had to basically do black eyeliner all around my eyes perfectly and have it wing off at both corners of my eyes. And then I had to basically make my face look thinner and masculine. So a lot of it was contouring, way too much foundation and cover up, and I had to basically use cover up on my lips, and it was just I still need to rewash my gloves and everything because I just have makeup all over it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I remember, like, back when I did makeup and stuff like that, I was always so terrified to do eyeliner, whether it was on myself or someone else. I'm like, I can't do it. It's so scary, so I can't even imagine doing that perfectly all around your eyes.
Since I've redone it, I have a really nice liquid eyeliner that works for the top, and I've started doing the inside lid with a pencil, and I use actually black eyeshadow with a really thin edged brush, and I use that to do the bottom side, and it works easier, it's a bit more comfortable, and it's a lot less frustrating.
Alright, wow, I feel like I've learned so much today. I think I've learned more from this than any other show. But, I mean, so if you would suggest to new people, would you suggest doing this in a group as well? I mean...
Well, there's pros and cons. In a group, you have to coordinate, do it all together, and if someone drops out, which usually happens more often than not, you end up, shafted with a costume you may not have wanted, or being stuck as a character you may not have preferred.
Alright, someone in the chat room actually has a question for you.
Oh, yes?
Yes, so question.
A fair amount. Depends on which. I tend to stick, when I was younger, I tended to do whatever people wanted because I wanted to be included. And while that was kind of bridging on his question as well, great, I ended up sacrificing a lot of what I wanted to be in a group. So I tend to now do the stuff I want to do. So their characters I know pretty well already. Then after that, I basically do 3 different searches. I'll do searches for the character itself, from all angles. Anime is really easy for this because they always give you those special little like full views from the mangas, like Shonen Jump or whatever. The magazine will have little excerpts where they show you the full 360 of the character. Then I look up cosplayers. I pick the ones I really like and I look at their stuff. Then I look up if someone sells it online, because I tend to look at the fabric they chose if I like it and try and get some hints there, or look at where scenes were and all that. Then I look up to see if there's any tutorials or look up certain techniques. Alex Straza, for example, I looked up techniques with resin. I also did make an Ozdormu costume, a Deathwing costume, and a Ysera costume all together there. So when I made the shoulders for someone, I actually looked up someone else who had made them. So I do a fair amount. Hi, kitty. That is Ashara. So I do a lot. Yeah, that's my baby kitty, Ashara. She's just like her namesake.
So now I gotta ask a question, because you put so much time and so much money into these cosplays, but you have so many. How often do you actually recycle these? Like, how often you're just like, man, I feel like I'm gonna go like Alex Straza, or do you just wear it once and you're like, alright, that's going in the box?
Most of my costumes wear it once and it goes in the box. The only ones I've redone have been X-23, Nightwing, and Batgirl.
Wow. So, and how many conventions do you go to a year? How many times a year do you cosplay, would you say?
About 10 times usually, just because there's so many. Less this year because I've been working a lot and I'm actually taking a step back from conventions to start all the projects. I literally have a closet just spilling with fabric.
Wow. Alright, so, yeah, is there any other questions from chat room? So how much money do you drop a year on this? Just between us and chat room.
So far, I've dropped $300 on my Jaina costume, and that's just for the basic fabric. No worries.
Wow. All right. So I guess I'll give my speech. Dice Troop is a non-profit organization. We do all these shows for free. If you would like to donate, though, you can go onto the Tumblr blog. We have a donate button. You can donate $1, $5, $20, any amount you feel like doing. But we will totally bring these show 100% free. And anyone who has donated to us, you have been awesome. We really have the best viewers in the world, whether it's live or on YouTube. So yeah, and then what projects do you have coming up?
Well, since you asked,
and do you want to leave some links in chat room as well as you go?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I got some pretty cool stuff going on. I am actually in an entertainment group on YouTube. We're just starting out, but our first thing is. Shush, this is my interview, go away. It's actually pretty cool. They've started with an abridged series, so if anyone likes Little Karibo or, Team Fortress and all that, it's similar to that stuff. We actually have Takahata 101 in it from Hellsing Abridged and Dragon Ball Z Abridged and all that, and it's directed by the lovely Jargo, and there's Yamato SFX, and Hayabusa 1. Hayabusa.
Yeah, we got a squee in chat.
I'm glad I got the squee. I'm not sure what I got the squee for, but there is a link to it. Takahata does some great work in it. Jargo actually does Pit from the Hellsing Abridged too, so totally check that out. So that's a link to the Abridged channel. We actually have a few other projects, such as some live action stuff we're in the process of planning. So if you like MMOs and comedy and silly stuff like that, keep an eye out. We also have a Facebook page and a Twitter, so the links are on the YouTube. As for me, we have a Tumblr in the works too. I have a cosplay page where you can ask me about anything I'm doing or take a look at upcoming projects and all that. So I will leave this here for anyone who's curious as well. Honestly, the Abridged series is really good quality work. We got to actually do a panel with Little Karibo and debut it at SakuraCon 2013. It's really endorsed by the other guys, so just give it a shot.
Alright, so question is, can we get you back on After Dark sometime?
whenever you want.
Oh, yeah?
I'll be happy to talk about more projects as they appear.
Alright, that's awesome. So, yep, I guess that will conclude our show. So if there's anything else you would like to say, we will end with the awesome picture of you as Alexstrasza and the Blood Elf, because, oh man, I love those. I haven't played WoW in a while, but those are so awesome.
I play World of Warcraft, so if anyone ever wants to play with me, I am Misanda, the same name, a holy paladin on the server Dawnbringer, and we're in the guild How You Get Ants, and for anyone who recognizes it, yes, that's a reference from Archer.
That's awesome. Alright, so that concludes our episode. So everyone have a safe and wonderful weekend, and we'll be back next Friday, or next Saturday morning, I guess I should say, if you're Eastern Time. So I'll catch y'all later.
Bye.